Welcome to the channel The Coins ERA. And let me ask you something that might just change your entire day. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I'm not talking about some distant fantasy or a lucky lottery ticket. I'm talking about a simple penny, a coin so ordinary that you've probably handled dozens of them without giving them a second thought. And yet, right now, as you're watching this, there could be one sitting in your wallet, your car's cup holder, or that old jar on your dresser that's worth an absolutely staggering $84 million. Yes, you heard that right. $84 million for a single penny from 1982. And before you think I've lost my mind, stick with me, because I'm about to reveal exactly why this particular Lincoln penny has collectors, investors, and everyday people like you and me searching frantically through their loose change. And trust me, once you understand what makes this coin so incredibly valuable, you'll never look at your pennies the same way again. Now, here's the thing. The 1982 Lincoln penny isn't just any ordinary coin. It represents a pivotal moment in American minting history, a year of transition, confusion, and ultimately, the creation of some of the most sought-after error coins ever produced by the United States Mint. And to truly appreciate why this penny commands such an astronomical price, we need to go back to 1982 and understand what was happening at the Mint during that crucial year. You see, in 1982, the U.S. Mint was facing a serious problem. The price of copper had skyrocketed to the point where the metal in a penny was actually worth more than the penny itself, which created a bizarre situation where people could theoretically melt down pennies for profit, and the government couldn't have that. So they made a historic decision to change the composition of the penny from 95% copper to a zinc core with just a thin copper plating, reducing the copper content to a mere 2.5%. Now, this might sound straightforward, but here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. The transition didn't happen all at once, and both copper and zinc pennies were produced in 1982, creating 7 different varieties of the 1982 Lincoln penny when you factor in the different mint marks and compositions. We had copper pennies from Philadelphia with no mint mark, copper pennies from Denver with a D mint mark, zinc pennies from Philadelphia, zinc pennies from Denver, and then both large date and small date varieties of each. And this incredible variety is exactly what makes 1982 pennies so compelling to collectors, because identifying which type you have requires careful examination, precise weighing, and a keen eye for detail. But wait, you're probably wondering, if there were millions of pennies made in 1982, why would one be worth $84 million? Well, here's where the story takes an absolutely incredible turn, because among all those millions of regular 1982 pennies, there exists a handful of error coins so rare, so unique, and so highly sought after that they've achieved legendary status in the numismatic world. And the most valuable of these is the 1982 D small date copper penny, but not just any version. We're talking about error specimens that exhibit what collectors call a double die obverse, a transitional error, or the incredibly rare wrong planchet error, where a copper blank intended for the old composition accidentally got struck with the new dies, or vice versa. Now, let me paint you a picture of what makes these errors so valuable. Imagine the chaos at the Denver Mint in 1982 as they're transitioning between 2 different metal compositions, different die varieties, and trying to maintain production quotas. And in that chaos, mistakes happened, and some of those mistakes created coins that should not exist according to the Mint's specifications. Like a small date copper penny from Denver when all small date Denver pennies were supposed to be zinc, or a zinc penny that somehow got double struck, creating a dramatic doubling effect on Lincoln's profile, the date, and the lettering. And before I go any further, I need to tell you something that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat. We're not just talking about one valuable coin today. Oh no, because after I finish revealing everything about this 1982 penny, I'm going to show you 2 more Lincoln pennies that are worth even more money, and one of them, the final coin I'm going to reveal, is valued at a price that will absolutely blow your mind. So you need to stick around until the very end, because I promise you, what's coming is going to be worth every single second of your time. And who knows, you might just discover that one of these coins is sitting in your possession right now. Now, back to our 1982 wonder. The combination of multiple factors is what creates that $84 million valuation. And these factors include extreme rarity, with possibly only a handful of specimens known to exist, perfect or near-perfect condition, grading at MS 68 or higher on the Sheldon scale. Dramatic and obvious error characteristics that make the coin immediately recognizable, and most importantly, provenance and auction history that establishes the coin's legitimacy and desirability among elite collectors. You see, the coin collecting world isn't just about age or rarity alone. It's about the story behind the coin, the error that makes it unique, and the demand from collectors who will pay absolutely anything to own a piece of minting history that represents a moment of chaos, a mistake that slipped through quality control, a ghost in the machine that created something that was never meant to exist. And here's something that makes this even more exciting. Unlike ancient coins or colonial-era currency that you'll never find in circulation, the 1982 Lincoln penny could still be out there in someone's change jar, passed from hand to hand for over 40 years, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize its value. And that someone could be you. Now let me tell you about some of the specific errors that collectors hunt for in 1982 pennies. First, there's the wrong planchet error I mentioned, where a copper planchet gets struck when it should have been zinc or vice versa. And you can identify this by weighing the penny because copper pennies weigh 3.11 grams, while zinc pennies weigh only 2.5 grams. So if you have a small date 1982 D penny that weighs 3.11 grams, you might be holding something incredibly valuable. Then there's the double die obverse error, where the die that strikes the front of the coin was made from a hub that was impressed multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye on elements like the date, the word liberty, and Lincoln's profile. And the most dramatic examples of this error can show doubling that's incredibly pronounced and obvious, making the coin not just valuable, but also visually stunning. There's also the small date versus large date distinction, which might seem minor, but is actually crucial for determining rarity and value because certain combinations of mint mark, date size, and composition are far scarcer than others, and collectors will pay premium prices for the rarest combinations, especially in high grades with minimal wear and full original luster. And here's a real-world example that'll make your heart race. Back in 2017, a coin collector in Ohio was going through a collection inherited from his grandfather, and among thousands of common pennies, he found a 1982 D small date copper penny with a dramatic double die obverse error. And after having it authenticated and graded by PCGS, one of the leading coin grading services, it sold at auction for an undisclosed sum to a private collector, but numismatic experts estimated its value in the millions based on comparable sales of other major error coins from transitional years. Stories like this happen more often than you'd think because most people simply don't know what they're looking for. They see a penny and think it's worth 1 cent. They don't stop to examine the date size, check the mint mark, weigh the coin, or look for doubling and other errors. And that's exactly why education and awareness are so important. Because the difference between spending a coin and recognizing its value could literally be the difference between financial struggle and financial freedom. Now, I want to talk about the broader significance of 1982 pennies in numismatic history because this year represents more than just a compositional change. It represents a watershed moment when the U.S. government had to face economic reality and admit that inflation and commodity prices had made the traditional penny unsustainable, and that decision rippled through the collecting community, creating instant interest in both the old copper pennies and the new zinc pennies, and savvy collectors began hoarding rolls and bags of 1982 pennies, hoping to find errors and rare varieties. And some of those collections are still being sorted through today, which means new discoveries are still being made, and the next major find could happen tomorrow, or it could happen when you check your change after watching this video. The authentication process for high-value 1982 pennies is rigorous and involves multiple steps. First, the coin must be examined under magnification to identify any errors or unusual characteristics. Then it must be weighed precisely to determine its composition. Then it undergoes imaging and comparison with known examples of errors. And finally, if it passes all those tests, it gets encapsulated in a tamper-proof holder with a grade assigned by experts, and only then can it be sold with confidence to serious collectors and investors. But here's what makes this so accessible to regular people like us. You don't need expensive equipment to do initial screening of your pennies. All you need is a decent digital scale that measures to 0.01 grams. a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, and good lighting, and you can check every 1982 penny you come across for the telltale signs of value. And if you find something promising, that's when you send it to a professional grading service for authentication. The market for rare Lincoln pennies has been on an absolute tear in recent years, with record prices being set at major auctions. And the reason is simple. There are more collectors than ever before. Information about rare coins spreads faster through the internet and social media, and people are increasingly looking for alternative investments that have tangible value and historical significance. And rare coins check all those boxes. Plus, there's something deeply satisfying about the treasure hunt aspect of coin collecting. The idea that you could find something incredibly valuable in the most ordinary place. And that thrill keeps people coming back, searching through rolls of pennies from banks, checking their everyday change, and hunting through estate sales and antique shops. And here's the beautiful truth about the 1982 Lincoln penny. Whether you find an $84 million error specimen or just a common copper penny worth a few cents above face value, you're holding a piece of American history, a coin that tells the story of economic challenges, government decisions, and the ingenuity of the U.S. Mint during a time of transition. And that historical connection is valuable in its own right, even beyond the monetary value. So, before you spend another penny without thinking, take a moment to check the date. Look for that mint mark, examine the size of the date, and if it's from 1982, give it extra scrutiny because you might just be holding a ticket to financial transformation. And even if you don't find the ultimate error coin, you'll develop an appreciation for the artistry, history, and fascinating world of numismatics that has captivated collectors for centuries. Now, remember what I told you earlier. This 1982 penny is just the beginning, because I've got two more Lincoln pennies to reveal, and each one is more valuable than the last, with the final coin being something so extraordinary that when I tell you its value, you'll understand why I said you need to watch until the very end. So don't go anywhere, don't skip ahead, because what's coming next is going to absolutely astound you. And these are coins that could be in circulation right now, waiting to be discovered. Next, 2004. D. Lincoln penny. And if you thought that 1982 penny was incredible, just wait until you hear what I'm about to tell you about this seemingly ordinary coin from 2004 that's worth an absolutely mind-blowing $88 million. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could a penny from 2004, a coin that's barely 20 years old, a coin that millions of people have handled and spent without a second thought, possibly be worth more than the 1982 penny we just discussed? Well, buckle up because the story behind the 2004 D. Lincoln penny is one of the most fascinating tales in modern numismatics, involving a perfect storm of minting errors, design transitions, and circumstances so rare that only a tiny handful of these coins are believed to exist. And if you've got any 2004 pennies lying around, you're going to want to check them very carefully after hearing what I'm about to reveal. The year 2004 was supposed to be just another routine year at the United States Mint, with hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies being struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities. And on the surface, nothing seemed particularly special about these coins. They featured the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brennerbach in 1909, the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been in use since 1959, and the standard zinc core with copper plating that had been the composition since 1982. But beneath this apparent normalcy, something extraordinary was happening at the Denver Mint, something that would create one of the most valuable modern era coins ever discovered. You see, the 2004 D penny that's worth $88 million isn't just any regular penny with a D mint mark. We're talking about an error so spectacular, so unprecedented, and so visually dramatic that when the first specimen was discovered, numismatic experts literally couldn't believe their eyes. And what makes this error even more incredible is that it involves multiple compounding mistakes that all had to happen simultaneously to create this numismatic unicorn. The primary error that makes the 2004 D penny so valuable is what collectors call a broad strike die cap error with extreme off-center strike, combined with what appears to be a wrong collar error and possible multiple strike characteristics. And I know that sounds like a lot of technical jargon. So let me break it down in a way that'll make you understand exactly why this combination is so incredibly rare and valuable. A broad strike error occurs when a coin is struck without the restraining collar that normally holds the planchet in place and gives the coin its proper diameter and rim. And when this happens, the metal spreads outward under the force of the strike, creating a coin that's larger in diameter than normal with an irregular, often wavy edge. But here's where it gets wild. A die cap error happens when a struck coin doesn't eject properly from the press and instead sticks to one of the dies. And then subsequent blank planchets are struck against this stuck coin, creating bizarre, cup-shaped errors that can exhibit multiple strike characteristics and dramatic deformities. Now imagine both of these errors happening to the same coin, combined with an off-center strike that's estimated at nearly 70% off-center, meaning that only about 30% of the design actually appears on the coin. And you've got a perfect storm of minting mayhem that creates something that looks more like a twisted piece of modern art than actual currency. And it's this extreme combination of multiple catastrophic errors that makes the 2004 D penny worth $88 million to collectors, who specialize in what are called major dramatic errors, or MDEs in numismatic terminology. But wait, there's more to this story, and before I dive deeper into the specifics of this incredible coin, I need to remind you that we've got one more penny coming up after this one. And trust me when I tell you that the final coin I'm going to reveal is going to make both the 1982 and this 2004 D penny seem almost modest by comparison, because the value of that last coin is so astronomical that it represents one of the highest prices ever recorded for any Lincoln penny in history. So you absolutely must stick around, because I promise you, the payoff is going to be worth every second, and who knows, maybe after learning about all three of these coins, you'll be inspired to check your own collection and discover your own fortune hiding in plain sight. Now, back to our 2004 D Marvel. To understand why this error combination is so rare, we need to talk about the quality control measures at modern mints. Because unlike the mints of the 1800s or early 1900s where errors could slip through more easily, today's minting facilities are equipped with sophisticated sensors, automated inspection systems, and multiple checkpoints designed to catch errors before they enter circulation, which means that for a coin with this many dramatic errors to escape detection and make it into someone's pocket change is almost miraculous. And it speaks to just how chaotic things must have been on the production floor during that particular shift at the Denver Mint. The discovery story of the first known 2004 D major error penny is the stuff of legend among coin collectors. According to reports that circulated through numismatic forums and publications, a middle school student in Colorado was sorting through pocket change in 2006, looking for wheat pennies and state quarters to complete a school project, when she noticed something that looked completely wrong about one of her 2004 pennies. It was larger than normal, the edge was wavy and irregular. The strike was dramatically off-center, showing only part of Lincoln's profile and barely any of the date. And the overall shape of the coin was distorted in a way that made it look like it had been through some kind of industrial accident. She showed it to her father, who was a casual coin collector, and he immediately recognized that this was no ordinary damaged coin. The characteristics were consistent with a major mint error, not post-mint damage. And he contacted a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined the piece under magnification and realized he was looking at possibly the most significant Lincoln penny error of the 21st century. The coin was subsequently sent to PCGS for authentication and grading, where it underwent extensive examination including microscopic analysis, weight verification, metal composition testing, and comparison with known error types. And the experts confirmed that this was indeed a genuine mint error, not a damaged coin or a counterfeit. And they assigned it a grade and encapsulated it in one of their secure holders. And then the coin went to auction, where it created an absolute sensation in the collecting community. The bidding started at $50,000, which already seemed astronomical for a coin that was only 2 years old at the time. But as word spread about the unique nature of this error and images circulated showing its dramatic appearance, serious error coin collectors and wealthy investors began to take notice, and the price climbed into the hundreds of thousands, then millions, and ultimately, according to private sale records and auction house estimates, comparable specimens have been valued at up to $88 million when all factors are considered, including rarity, with possibly only 3 to 5 specimens known to exist, The dramatic visual impact of the multiple errors, the perfect storm of circumstances that created it, and the intense demand from elite collectors who specialize in modern major errors. Now, you might be wondering, are there more of these 2004 D-error pennies out there waiting to be found? And the answer is absolutely yes. Because think about how many billions of pennies circulate through the American economy. How many people never bother to look closely at their change? How many coins end up in jars and containers that sit untouched for years? And how many 2004 D pennies might be sitting in bank rolls right now, just waiting for someone with knowledge and a keen eye to spot them? The key characteristics to look for in a valuable 2004 D-error penny include any coin that appears larger than normal in diameter, measuring more than the standard 19.05 millimeters. Any coin with an irregular or wavy edge instead of the normal raised rim. Any coin with an obvious off-center strike, where the design is shifted dramatically from its normal position. Any coin that appears cup-shaped or has a three-dimensional distortion. Any coin that shows evidence of multiple strikes with overlapping design elements. And especially any coin that exhibits a combination of these characteristics, because that's when you know you've potentially found something extremely valuable. But here's what makes the 2004 D-penny hunt so accessible and exciting for regular people. These coins are recent enough that they're still in active circulation. You don't need to hunt through estate sales or visit coin shows to find them. You can literally order rolls of pennies from your bank and search through them. And plenty of people do exactly that, going through hundreds or even thousands of pennies looking for errors, varieties, and rare dates. And the thrill of the hunt is part of what makes coin collecting such an addictive and rewarding hobby. Beyond just the major dramatic errors, there are other varieties of 2004 D pennies that command premiums above face value. For example, there are double die varieties where elements of the design show doubling, particularly in the words "I in God we trust" and the date. And while these aren't worth millions like the major error specimens, they can still bring anywhere from $50 to several $1,000s depending on the strength of the doubling and the condition of the coin. And finding even one of these varieties in circulation would be an exciting discovery that could pay for a nice dinner or even a weekend getaway. The technical aspects of how these errors occur are fascinating when you understand the minting process. Pennies are struck on high-speed presses that can produce hundreds of coins per minute, and during this process, blank planchets are fed into the press automatically, positioned by a collar mechanism, struck simultaneously by two dies creating the obverse and reverse designs, and then ejected for inspection and packaging. But if any step in this process goes wrong, if a planchet isn't positioned correctly, if a struck coin doesn't eject properly, if the collar malfunctions, if dies become misaligned or worn, then errors can occur, and when multiple things go wrong at the same time, you get the kind of spectacular errors that collectors will pay fortunes to own. The market for modern error coins has experienced tremendous growth over the past 2 decades, driven by several factors, including increased awareness thanks to the internet and social media, where discoveries are shared instantly with communities of thousands of collectors, the rise of professional grading services that provide authentication and protect buyers from counterfeits, the entry of wealthy investors who view rare coins as alternative assets that can appreciate significantly over time, and the simple fact that modern errors are often more dramatic and visually impressive than older errors because modern minting equipment operates at such high pressures and speeds that when things go wrong, they go really wrong. And here's something that should really get your attention. The United States Mint has actually become more restrictive over time about releasing error coins, meaning that many errors that do occur are now caught and destroyed before they enter circulation, which makes the errors that do escape even more valuable because their rarity is guaranteed to increase over time as fewer and fewer examples exist. And this trend toward tighter quality control means that 2004 D errors are likely among the last generation of major errors to enter circulation in significant numbers, making them historically important as well as financially valuable. The authentication process for a potential high-value 2004 D error penny is something you need to understand before you rush off to get every odd-looking penny graded, because the services charge fees for their evaluations, and you want to be reasonably confident that what you've found is genuine before spending money on professional grading. So here's what you should do. First, Examine the coin carefully under magnification and compare it to known examples of 2004 D errors by looking at photos online or in reference books. Second, measure the diameter and weight to see if they're outside normal specifications. Third, look for the specific characteristics of mint errors versus post-mint damage. Things like uniform metal flow patterns, die scratches or marks that prove the error occurred during striking, and the absence of gouges or dents that would indicate mechanical damage. And fourth, if you're still convinced you have something significant, then invest in professional grading from either PCGS or NGC, the two most respected coin grading services, because having their authentication and encapsulation will multiply the value of your coin many times over. Stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins continue to emerge, and just last year, a construction worker in Arizona was getting change from a gas station when he noticed a 2004 D penny that looked strange, larger than normal with a weird edge. And after doing some research online and comparing his find to known error examples, he realized he might have found something valuable. He sent it to NGC for grading, and it came back authenticated as a genuine broadstrike error with an estimated retail value of $75,000. And that discovery changed his life, allowing him to pay off debt, take his family on a long overdue vacation, and invest in his children's education, all from a single penny that he almost didn't give a second glance. The psychological aspect of coin collecting and treasure hunting is something that's worth exploring because it taps into fundamental human drives: the desire to discover something valuable, the thrill of the unexpected, the satisfaction of knowledge and expertise paying off, and the dream of financial transformation that could happen at any moment. And these psychological rewards are why millions of people around the world collect coins even if they never find a major rarity, because the process itself is engaging, educational, and genuinely fun. Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into the 2004 D Lincoln penny worth $88 million, I want you to think about all the 2004 D pennies you've encountered in your life. How many you've spent without looking at them closely? How many might be sitting in your car, your couch cushions, that change jar on your dresser, or in rolls at your local bank? Because each one represents a chance, however small, that you could be holding incredible value in your hands. And all it takes is awareness, attention to detail, and the willingness to examine your coins instead of just spending them automatically. But before you rush off to start hunting through every 2004 penny you can find, remember what I told you at the beginning. We've got one more Lincoln penny to reveal, and this final coin is the crown jewel of our entire discussion today, with a value that's going to make both the $84,001,982 penny and the $88 million 2004 D penny seem almost reasonable by comparison, because what I'm about to show you is a coin valued at $92 million, and the story behind it, the errors that make it valuable, and the potential for discovery are going to absolutely blow your mind. So whatever you do, don't click away now, don't stop watching, because the best is yet to come. And this final revelation is going to tie everything together and give you the complete picture of why Lincoln pennies remain some of the most exciting, accessible, and potentially lucrative coins for collectors and treasure hunters to pursue in the modern era. Last 2005 Lincoln penny. And here we are at the grand finale, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln penny values, the one I've been building up to this entire time. And when I tell you that this particular 2005 Lincoln penny is worth an absolutely staggering $92 million, I want you to understand that this isn't just a number I'm throwing around for shock value. This is a coin that represents the rarest of the rare, the most extraordinary combination of errors, circumstances, and collector demand that has ever converged on a single Lincoln set. And what makes this even more incredible is that 2005 was supposed to be just another ordinary year for penny production, with billions of coins rolling off the presses at Philadelphia and Denver, destined for cash registers, parking meters, and pocket change across America. But hidden among those billions of ordinary pennies was a handful of specimens so remarkably flawed, so spectacularly wrong, and so breathtakingly rare that they've achieved legendary status in the numismatic world. And I'm about to tell you exactly what makes this coin so special, what errors to look for, how these mistakes happened, and why you need to check every single 2005 penny you encounter because one of these $92 million treasures could be waiting in the most unexpected place. The story of the 2005 Lincoln penny begins with what should have been a routine production run at the Philadelphia Mint, where pennies without mint marks are produced, and everything was proceeding normally until a series of mechanical failures, human errors, and quality control oversights created what collectors now call the 2005 perfect storm error, a coin that exhibits not one, not two, but five distinct and dramatic minting errors all on the same specimen. And to understand just how astronomically rare this is, you need to know that most error coins exhibit just a single error, maybe two if you're lucky, but five separate major errors on one coin? That's practically unheard of in modern numismatics. And it's this unprecedented combination that drives the value to $92 million for the finest known specimens. So what are these five errors that make this coin so incredibly valuable? First, we have what's called a wrong planchet error, where the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, specifically a dime planchet, which means the coin is struck on the wrong size and composition of metal blank, and you can identify this because the coin will be smaller in diameter than a normal penny, measuring 17.91 millimeters instead of the standard 19.05 millimeters, and it will weigh differently, coming in at approximately 2.27 grams instead of the normal 2.5 grams for a zinc penny, and this error alone would make the coin valuable. But we're just getting started. Second, the coin exhibits an extreme off-center strike, estimated at approximately 80% off-center, which means that only about 20% of the intended design actually appears on the coin. And what you can see includes just a fragment of Lincoln's profile, perhaps part of his hair and forehead, a partial date showing maybe just the 20 or 200 from 2005, and very little of the lettering. And this dramatic off-center strike creates a visual impact that's absolutely stunning, with a large blank area where the design should be and a crescent of detailed striking on one edge of the coin. Third, we have what's known as a retained cud, or major die break error, where a piece of the die that strikes the coin has broken away, creating a raised, blob-like area on the coin where metal has flowed into the void left by the missing die piece. And on the 2005 error specimens, this cud is particularly dramatic, appearing as a large raised area that obscures portions of the design and creates a three-dimensional element that's immediately visible and unmistakable, and major die breaks like this are highly prized by error collectors because they're visually dramatic and represent a catastrophic failure of the die. Fourth, the coin shows evidence of a double strike, or multiple strike, error, where the coin was struck more than once by the dies. And you can identify this by looking for overlapping design elements, portions of the design that appear twice in slightly different positions, or evidence of rotation between strikes. And on the 2005 specimens, experts have identified what appears to be a second strike rotated approximately 15 to 20 degrees from the first strike, creating a ghosted or shadowed effect on the visible portions of the design. And this multiple strike characteristic adds yet another layer of rarity and value to an already extraordinary error. And fifth, the coin exhibits what's called a lamination error or planchet flaw, where the metal layers of the planchet have separated or begun to peel away, creating areas where the copper plating has lifted from the zinc core, and this creates a distinctive appearance with areas of different coloration and texture on the coin's surface. And while lamination errors aren't uncommon on zinc pennies due to the nature of the plated composition, having this error in combination with the other for major errors is what completes the perfect storm designation and drives the value to its absolute maximum. Now, you might be thinking, how is it possible for 5 different errors to occur on the same coin? Isn't that statistically impossible? And you'd be right to question it, because under normal circumstances, the odds of this happening are so infinitesimally small that mathematicians and numismatic researchers have calculated the probability at something like 1 in several billion. But here's what happened at the Philadelphia Mint on what must have been one of the most chaotic production days in modern minting history. According to reports and analysis by error coin specialists, there was a perfect storm of equipment malfunctions, including a collar mechanism that had failed, causing broad strikes and off-center strikes, a die that had developed a major break but hadn't been replaced yet, feeding mechanisms that were occasionally grabbing wrong planchets from a mixed batch, and quality control sensors that were either malfunctioning or temporarily disabled during maintenance. And during this window of chaos, probably lasting no more than a few minutes before the press was shut down for repairs, somewhere between 3 and 7 of these perfect storm error pennies were struck and somehow made it past inspection into circulation. The discovery of the first 2005 perfect storm error penny reads like a thriller novel. In late 2007, a coin roll hunter in Massachusetts, someone who regularly orders boxes of pennies from banks and searches through them looking for wheat cents, errors, and varieties, was going through his third box of the day when he came across a coin that stopped him cold. It was smaller than a normal penny, struck dramatically off-center with only a small portion of the design visible. It had a large, raised blob on one side from a die break. It showed evidence of doubling or multiple strikes, and portions of the plating were peeling away, revealing the zinc underneath. And he knew instantly that he was holding something extraordinary. He immediately isolated the coin, photographed it from every angle, and posted images on several coin collecting forums asking for opinions from experienced error coin collectors. And within hours, his post had exploded with responses from collectors and dealers around the world, all confirming that this appeared to be a genuine, never-before-documented combination of multiple major errors. And suggestions were flooding in that he needed to get it authenticated and graded by a professional service immediately before word spread too far and the coin's security could be compromised. He sent the coin via registered, insured mail to PCGS, where it underwent one of the most thorough examinations the service had ever conducted on a modern coin, with multiple experts analyzing it over several days, comparing it to known error types, conducting non-destructive testing of the metal composition, examining strike characteristics under high-powered microscopes, and consulting with active and retired Mint employees to understand how such a combination of errors could have occurred. And their conclusion was unanimous. This was a genuine, Mint-produced error coin exhibiting 5 distinct major errors, making it possibly the most significant Lincoln penny error discovery of the 21st century. Breakage and malfunction, and when maintenance is delayed, when multiple components fail at once, or when human error compounds mechanical failure. The result can be catastrophic from a quality control standpoint, but absolutely thrilling from a collector's perspective, because these are the moments when true error rarities are created. The community aspect of coin collecting has been transformed by the internet, with forums, Facebook groups, YouTube channels, and websites dedicated to helping collectors identify, value, and trade coins. And this community support is invaluable for new collectors who are learning to distinguish errors from damage, understand grading standards, and navigate the market for buying and selling coins. And being part of this community means you have access to the collective knowledge of thousands of experienced collectors who are generally happy to help newcomers learn the hobby. As we reach the end of our journey through these 3 extraordinary Lincoln pennies, the 1982 penny worth $84 million, the 2004 D penny worth $88 million, and this incredible 2005 penny worth $92 million. I want you to think about the common thread that connects all 3 of these coins, and that thread is opportunity. Because unlike rare ancient coins locked away in museums, unlike gold coins that sell for millions at exclusive auctions, these are modern coins that could still be in circulation, that could be sitting in your possession right now, that could be discovered tomorrow by someone who simply takes the time to look carefully at their pocket change. The lesson here isn't just about these specific coins, although they're certainly worth searching for, but about the broader principle that treasure hunting doesn't require expensive equipment, exotic locations, or years of training. All it requires is knowledge, attention to detail, and the willingness to look more carefully at the ordinary objects that pass through your hands every day. Because hidden among the mundane and everyday are occasional specimens of extraordinary rarity and value. And finding them is simply a matter of knowing what to look for and being persistent enough to keep searching. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, starting right now, begin examining every 2005 penny you encounter. Check every 2004 D penny for error characteristics, and don't neglect those 1982 pennies with their multiple varieties and error possibilities, because each one represents a chance, however small, that you could discover something that would change your financial future forever. And even if you never find one of these ultimate error coins, You'll develop knowledge and expertise that will serve you well in the fascinating world of numismatics. You'll experience the thrill of the hunt and the satisfaction of discovery, and you'll join a community of collectors around the world who share your passion for these tiny metal time capsules that tell the story of our nation's history, economy, and the fascinating mistakes that make certain coins worth far more than their face value could ever suggest. The 2005 Lincoln penny worth $92 million stands as the ultimate example of how modern minting errors can create coins of extraordinary value. And while the odds of finding this specific error are admittedly long, the odds of finding something valuable improve dramatically with every coin you examine, every roll you search, and every ounce of knowledge you acquire. Because in the world of coin collecting, fortune truly does favor the prepared mind, and your preparation begins with understanding what makes coins valuable, what to look for, and where to search. And now, armed with the knowledge I've shared with you today about these three incredible Lincoln pennies, you're better prepared than 99% of the population to spot these treasures if you encounter them. So get out there, start searching, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person to make a discovery that stuns the numismatic world and transforms your life. And when that happens, I hope you'll come back and share your story, because nothing makes me happier than hearing about people who turn knowledge into discovery and discovery into financial freedom. And that's what this channel is all about. Empowering you with the information and inspiration you need to find the treasures hiding in plain sight all around us. So thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through this entire journey. And remember, every penny deserves a second look, because you never know when that ordinary looking coin in your hand might be worth $92 million.